He's a million years old. And you're meaning to tell me that he was with Minty only once? Nah. Hi. So lately I've been getting a lot of Greek mythology books recommendations on my booktok For You page. So I decided to pick 5. I picked the 5 that I saw the most on my For You page. I finished them and now I want to give you my opinion on the books. So my recommendation for you, if you're interested in reading any of the books that I'm going to be talking about, the timestamps are going to be below. Go and read the original story, like the original Greek mythology story, and then read the book, because in most of the books they change a lot of details of the original story. So I would say just read the original story and then read the book, just so you can have like a reference of, oh, this is how the original used to be and this is how the author changed it. Also, if this is your first time trying to get yourself into Greek mythology, trigger warning. Because if you don't know, Greek mythology stories can be a little bit gruesome. For example, they are okay with doing incest. They are okay with doing bestiality. So be mindful of that. Okay, so let's start with the first book. It's called Circe or Circe. So some author and book details. Madeline Miller was born on July 24, 1978 in Boston, Massachusetts, United States of America. She is a novelist who attended Brown University, completing a master's degree on classics. The book Circe was published on April 10th, 2018. So what is the book about? So Circe is the daughter of Achilles. She gets very mistreated by her family, and everybody pretty much just like don't give her the time of the day. She falls in love with a mortal, and when she falls in love with this mortal, she discovers that she has magical powers. Now, before you say, oh, she's the daughter of a god, of course she has magical powers. When I say magical powers, I mean she had magic, like spells, like she was a witch. When she fell in love with the human whose name is Glaucus or Glaucus, she did something for him that was very grand and very generous of her. I'm not going to tell you what it was, so you can read the book and whatever, but she did something for him. And girl, as soon as she did that favor for him, I started to feel bad for her, because I was like no. She became Barbara the Builder.
Barbara, last name the Builder. She helps you actually build your empire before you leave her.
I knew it. As soon as she did that for him, I was like, girl, you are Barbara the Builder. So after she leaves her Barbara the Builder era, which I was very happy for, she starts focusing on herself, as she should. Essentially, this is where the book begins, because this is where she goes on like her own journey, her own adventures and that, and this is where the book like starts to pick up. What I liked about the book, I would say that I liked the fact that Circe, she's a late bloomer. She made a lot of mistakes, but she learned from her mistakes. I love the fact that she's a cat person and lives in an island with her cats. So what I didn't like about the book, not too much that I didn't like it, it's just that I wanted to see like more details. I wanted her to girl boss more. Like she girl bosses and she slays, but I wanted the author to give me details on how she did what she did. When she unleashes her power, give me a full 3-page scene. I wanted to read the details. Also, I must say, in this book, warning, please listen to me, warning. If you don't know the story of the Minotaur, how the Minotaur came to be or came to exist, warning, because I didn't knew how that happened. I thought the Minotaur was its own species, kind of like the centaur. I don't know if the centaur was born like that or if... Anyway, the thing is that the Minotaur, I didn't knew its origin, and even though that in the book they don't go into graphic detail about it, but they do mention it. I give it an 8 out of 10. Very girl boss, very slay. I liked it. It's very good. Let's move on to our next book. It's called A Touch of Darkness. I couldn't find that much information of the author. She's an American writer born on April 23rd. She's from Oklahoma, and she's the author of A Touch of Darkness, King of Battle and Blood, and When Stars Come Out. This one is very popular on booktok. It was very, very much recommended. The book is about a modern modern retelling of the story between Hades and Persephone. In this retelling, Persephone is a university student. She's going to school for journalism. She lives among the mortals and she hides the fact that she is a goddess. And we have Hades. He's a gambling club owner, and take a wild guess about what he gambles. Souls, exactly. The thing is that Persephone ends up going to his club, and for some reason she ends up making a deal with Hades, making a deal with the literal devil. What I liked about the book, I liked that the book gave a different perspective regarding death, because usually death is seen as something very negative, and also what happens to you after death is usually something bad, that if you live a bad life, you're going to have to pay for your sins and all of that. And in the book, they give like a different perspective regarding death, and I really appreciated that. I also liked how the author incorporated details of original Greek mythology stories in this retelling. For example, Aphrodite, she has a club that is named La Rose or La Rose, and that makes sense because Aphrodite is known for liking roses. Details like that she added to the story of the book that I like, oh, I see why she would do that, and I appreciated that. What I didn't like, Persephone, she's annoying. She is so annoying. I was like, can she shut the up? She was very annoying and questioning everything before asking Hades. I don't want to spoil anything, but she's a journalist, and instead of seeing both sides of the story, she will just listen one side of the story and then blame Hades for everything. And then he tries to explain his point of view and she's like, no, which is very annoying to read. And then she keeps questioning how he rules the underworld and wants to change certain things. Like, girl, you are a tourist. This is not your realm, at least not yet. This is how she was. Like, imagine you invite someone to your house and then they start talking about like, oh, I don't like your curtains. I don't like the color of your curtains. Why is it green? Bitch, because it's my house. I pay for it. You are a tourist in my house. I didn't ask for your opinion. So, mira, shut up. Another thing I didn't like was the tension build up. So if you don't know, Persephone and Hades end up having like a romantic thing, right? The tension build up for them to like realize that they were attracted to each other, this and that. I didn't like it because it was this quick. It went from 0 to 100. She met him on day 1. And then on day 2, he gives her full access to everything. Like, what? Like, give me some tension.
What can I say? What can I say?
I didn't like that. Another thing that I didn't like was Minthi and Adonis' portrayal. Something that I found funny was that when Persephone asks Hades, like, hey, have you been with Minthi? Like, have you been intimate with her? He's like, yeah, but only once. Girl, you're meaning to tell me Hades has been alive since the beginning of time. He's 1,000,000 years old. And you're meaning to tell me that he was with Minthi only once? Nah. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. And the thing is that Persephone bought it. She was like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I didn't like Adonis because Adonis and Persephone, they're supposed to have like a little thing. And here they're like enemies. So I thought maybe Adonis in this version of the story was going to be maybe like ex-boyfriend of Persephone or just something. But here he's like so annoying. By the way, trigger warning, this book is spicy. The rating, I give it a 6 out of 10. So for me, it felt rushed. The story development didn't captivate me as much as the original. The next book I'm going to be talking about is Medusa. Again, there's not a lot of information on this author either, but what I could find is the author is named Jessica Catherine Burton. She was born on August 17, 1982. She is an English author, and Medusa was published on October 21st, 2021. What is the book about? I think that out of all the books that I'm going to be talking about, this one's like the most popular. So in this version, Medusa is trapped on an island with her 2 sisters, and the story we see it developing after 4 years that she was turned into a gorgon. And then Perseus arrives to the island. Usually, I don't like retellings because I don't like when they change the story too much. Like if they change the whole plot, I'm like, at this point, just make a new story. So that's usually my problem with retellings. But But I like this story a lot. Even though that there's two original stories or original versions of the story, I like them both. But this one I really liked. The way that it's written, I think it was one of my favorite things of the book. It's very poetic and captivating. I also like the fact that Medusa names her snakes different Greek mythology names. And I love that towards the end of the book, she breaks the fourth wall and talks to the reader. I really like that. I didn't like Perseus.
I really don't like that guy.
I don't like him. I don't like him in the original story. I don't like him in this story. I don't like him on Clash of the Titans. I don't like him. And I don't like him going after Medusa because she was bothering no one. Rating, I give it a 9 out of 10. This book is very good. And I also appreciated the fact that it has illustrations. So if you're more of like a visual person, she gives you illustrations. Okay, so the next book that we're going to be talking about is called Psyche and Eros. Author and book details. Luna Mcnamara is a social worker by day, and by night she writes about historical women and forgotten gods. She holds a master's degree from Harvard University, and this is her first novel. It was published this year on May 25th. What is the book about? This is a retelling of the love story of Psyche and Eros. What I liked about the book, so this book, she is constantly changing from point of view. At the beginning, I kind of like, I don't like this, but I think it's not a bad thing. Like, you kind of like get used to it, and then towards the end I started to appreciate it because you can read about the internal thoughts that each character is having. So I like that. Also here you realize that Cupid or Eros, it's older than Zeus. Like, he's been around for a long time, and I think people forget that because, or like, Cupid is so cute, like, you know, with the arrows and this and that. No, baby girl, he's one of the like first 4 primal beings in Greek mythology. Another thing that I liked is that the author made sure to include other characters like Achilles. You can see like a brief interaction, and also Medusa makes an appearance in this version of the story. I like that, even though that it's not like biblically accurate, but I liked it. Also, we get to see a little bit of Persephone on the story. This version of Persephone I really liked, but it made me feel bad for Hades because you can see that here not only he got the worst of the 3 kingdoms, but then when he gets united with Persephone, he's not even the real king of the underworld, because yes, he is Hades, king of the underworld, but in this version you see that the one that rules the underworld is actually Persephone, and I found that so funny and sad at the same time, but I loved it. But I didn't like, this is not something necessarily that I didn't like, more like I was shocked because I didn't knew this detail, so I wasn't prepared. The story of Agamemnon and his daughter Iphigenia, girl, I was so shocked. I was like, what? It was giving Game of Thrones, it was giving the Red Wedding. Something that I didn't like, but it's not the author's fault, it's just how the story is, that Aphrodite is the villain in the story. And something, also another thing that I kind of like wish that the author changed was that she didn't make Hecate with her 3 heads. She made her like an old lady, I believe, or something like that. Something that I wish this book had was illustrations, because there's so many scenes that I would love to see illustrated. I feel like the author should publish an illustrated version of the book. I give it a 9 out of 10. It's very romantic, but it's not cheesy. The last book that I'm going to be talking about is The Song of Achilles. The author is Madeline Miller, who we talked about at the beginning. The book is about how Achilles and Patroclus, these Greek names, I cannot pronounce them. Patro, became friends. How they got to know each other, become like adoptive brothers, and then they became friends, and then they became something more.
Fuck out my way when you see me. I'm rolling with the LGBT.
Again, honey, I never knew this because the only reference I had was the Troy movie. And I watched this movie when I was a kid. The only thing I remember was Brad Pitt being blonde and beautiful. And then I remember Brad Pitt in a horse dragging a body. And then I remember the horse, like the literal Trojan horse. You know what I'm talking about. So I was a little bit surprised, especially when I see that Patroclus kind of has a crush on Achilles. I'm like,
This is definitely
fruity.
And then a lot of things happened that I was like, what? When people talk about Achilles, they only talk about the feet, the Achilles tendon. They don't talk about this personal story. The story, you see it from Patroclus' point of view. And when he talks about Achilles, not only he has a massive crush on Achilles, but he has Achilles on a very high pedestal. And every time Patroclus is talking about Achilles, this and that, it made me imagine, oh, this is what it must be like to be the wife or the partner of a very famous person. Because Patroclus is always saying like, oh, Achilles is so high and mighty. He's like the son of a nymph. He is like a god. He's beautiful and people like him. He's so popular. He's so famous. Achilles is like a movie star and Patroclus is just like some dude. He's the partner of a very famous person. So I liked that the point of view didn't change. I'm not going to go too much into it because I feel like I would spoil something if I explain that. But the point of view, even to the end of the book, it doesn't change. I didn't like that it's never explained why Achilles' mother doesn't like Patroclus. Was she just like homophobic, or she just thought that he was a mortal? Like, you never get to see why, but I didn't like that they never explained that. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's not that it's a bad book. It's very beautifully written. Like, the author of this book, you can tell she knows how to write. In both books, in the Song of Achilles and in Circe, you can tell that she is very seasoned. Some of the other books I enjoyed the story itself more. It is not to say that this book is bad or that it's badly written. The book is also very famous on BookTok. A lot of people talk about it. But between this one and Circe, I liked Circe more. So, of all the books, if I have to recommend only one book, it will be Medusa, because it's a short book. It's a retelling, which is weird to have a good retelling of a story, and it has illustrations. Like, I love that. And even though, like I said, Medusa is such a famous story, like everybody knows the story and she's the face of Versace, this book, it was very good. Say in second place I would put Psyche and Eros. In third place I would put Circe. In fourth place I would put Song of Achilles. And then in fifth place I would put Touch of Darkness. Overall, they're good books. It's just my personal preference, and that's my opinion. Anyways, that was all for today. Thank you for watching this video. Tell me if there's other books or maybe other Greek mythology books that you will want me to review or read, and I will do it. Thank you so much, and bye.